morning. This is the Formless podcast, episode number 33. That was the other thing we need to talk about. We've been doing this for a year now. Congratulations.
Yes,
yeah, we're
1 year.
We're 1 year old.
Score.
Actually, it was November 29th of last year that we sent the first episode, published it.
Really?
So, yeah.
1 year, man. We've been at this.
We've been at it, yeah. I've learned a lot since then. I'm jumping ahead, though. My name is Dustin, and joined here again with Tyler, the superhuman, back from his adventures. And tell us a little bit about that.
So I work in filmmaking when I can, and so I've got a crew that I've been working with on several different feature films, and so they had one film scheduled to film in Texas, and it's called The Great Turkey Town Miracle. And we filmed in Texas. I went there for like 11 days. It was filming. I was there for like 14, I think. But I flew in late November, right after Thanksgiving, and then finished a week and a half ago. It was a feature film. I was the first assistant director on it. So the first assistant director ramrods the crew, basically. Keeps the crew on schedule and keeps them on time, and is basically in charge of the film set. And so on this movie, the star of the film, the main guy, was also the director of the film. So he's normally the director is behind the camera, and the stars are in front of the camera. Well, this guy, I love what he does. He directs and he acts what he's in. And so he was in front of the camera most of the time, and me being first assistant director, I'm the one calling and say, hey, is camera recording? Is sound recording? Actually, it's the other way around. Is sound recording, then is camera recording? And so that once you're recording, then I was the one that yelled action. Normally it would be the director. Yeah. The director's sitting in his director's chair or whatever, standing, and he'd be the one that would say, okay, action. And then, when the planned action is done, he would yell cut. And so because the director actor was in the movie, I'm the one yelling, okay, action, and then I got to know when to cut too, when to say cut. Yeah. And so it was a good time, and it's called The Great Turkey Town Miracle. And I don't want to spoil the film and say what it is exactly, other than it's a Thanksgiving, like a holiday Thanksgiving film. And it's really funny, and it'll be out in a year from now. And we had a great crew, and filmed in 11 days. And perfect. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it.
No, don't spoil it. Let others do that.
Yeah, but I had a good time in traveling to Texas. And now I'm back, and we're back on the podcast. So there's more movies in the pipeline that I'll be working on with this crew. So
very cool.
Yeah, we're gonna film two movies back to back in March. So
wow.
Yeah, so that'll be pretty cool.
That's awesome. And the foot's healed up. I know folks. Tyler walked in on his own 2 feet, no hobbling. I mean, he didn't do cartwheels and backflips yet. That'll be next week probably. But no cast, no walking boot.
No, when I was on the film set in Texas, I alternated. I had my walking boot on from when I broke my leg. I alternated. I would wear it for a couple days, then maybe for one day I would not wear it.
And just kind of see how it is.
Ease my way into it, and then I would go back on it for a day, and then not wear it for a day, and then I just slowly eased my way out of it, and I just felt like it was time with the healing that had gone on in my leg. And so I started walking, and now I'm walking without it, and I'm a little wobbly,
Yeah, you gotta kind of
ease my way into it.
Get your bearings, so to speak.
But it was, on the film set, it was real. It must have been a really great sight to see me hobbling around like a pirate, limping around, and I'm barking orders at the crew and trying to keep them on track and on time, and just because on a film set, the saying is, in a lot of industries, the saying is, time is money, and that's so true on a film set. And so, you got to keep things moving and keep filming.
And you've really, like, you're spending a bunch of money before you can make any money.
Before you make the
movie. It'll be, the movie's not even done yet. And then it's got to go to, wherever it goes, either theaters or Netflix or Amazon. And then you've got to hope people watch it. So it's a gamble.
It's a gamble. I like to say investment, but it really is a gamble. It really is, because you don't know, the investor, one of the investors showed up on the film set, and I was like, oh man, like, make sure like we're all working.
Yeah, got your P's and Q's.
This guy's, he's writing the check to fund this film, and it's like, hey, we got to make sure everyone's working, and we're staying on schedule and moving. But you try to then balance that out by having a good time, because it's like filmmaking is such it's a hard thing to get into, that when you actually are making a movie, it's not like a regular job so much, where people might show up and they're just there to do their hours and get their paycheck and go home. A film set is like, you're working with people who have tried to succeed and get into this, and like they really want to be there. Like they really want to be on a movie set,
as opposed to
working at some day job, that you might
not necessarily want to be there.
Yeah. So it's nice to be working and involved with people that want to be there and want to do a good job. On top of that, then I have to still make sure we're having a good time, and we're still moving and staying on schedule.
Yeah, so everybody's attitude's in the right place and all of that.
Yeah, and putting out fires where you got to put them out, and fixing problems. So
right on. I was pretty excited to hear that you were back, and that you were out of the boot and ready to rock and roll, and that's sweet.
Yeah, it was.
I'm glad to see that you're healing up.
Thank you. It was so nice to take off that boot, and the day I left Texas, I just went and threw that boot in the trash. I was like, I'm gonna leave this boot here, and I'm gonna go home.
Leave a little bit of me in Texas.
Yeah.
Sayonara.
Bye bye.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
So here I am, and walking around, and I've just been absolutely just craving to get back into karate.
Yeah. So sometimes life gets in the way. That's one of my sayings that I like to say. Sometimes life gets in the way. Meaning you have all of these things that you plan to do, you want to do, whether it's career-wise, hobby-wise, whatever the case may be. You have this plan, right? Everybody does this, I think. Everyone's got this plan and how life is going to work out. And then something happens that interrupts that plan, right? Like you broke your leg. So, you had planned out the previous or the we got a little cell phone disruption.
Yeah,
that's what happens when you're out of practice, right? But you get this plan and like, okay, in 30 days I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and blah 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 blah, and then something happens. Your car breaks down, you break your leg, somebody gets sick, or and it's like, wait a minute, I had this plan and I wanted to do all of this stuff, and now I've got to take care of this other stuff. Like, it's good to have a plan, but it's important for that plan to be flexible. If it's so unflexible that you can't take into consideration all of the little distractions that may happen. And I'm not trying to minimize the fact that you broke your foot. That's not a distraction. That's a serious issue.
Not. Yeah.
My car broke down. I have no way of getting to the places I need to go until my car's fixed. You can't kick until your foot's healed. You can't, so it's such a it's life, life happens, and you have to take into account that things don't always go to plan according to plan, right?
No, they don't.
And
sometimes they do.
Sometimes they do. Yeah,
but a lot of times they don't.
Yeah, and I mean everyone can relate to that. Like, look at COVID. nobody planned for COVID, right?
Nope.
Nobody had that like, oh, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks and da-da-da-da-da. And I mean, everything went haywire. I feel like because of that, like everything's upside down now. Everything that like was normal is not normal anymore, you
Not
know?
normal.
And I had in my mind, I was like kind of forming this whole agenda, right? Like the next 10 years of my life are going to look like this. I'm going to do this and this and this. Since COVID, I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm glad I wake up every morning. I'm alive. I'm good. Like I've got my family together. I'm just going to see what today brings, you know? It's kind of changed.
Being present.
I'm being present. Yeah, being present. But like, not going to worry about what the whole outside world's doing right now. I'm going to do the best job that I can do and make sure that everyone I care about is taken care of. And then I'm going to let the chips fall where they may, you know? It's kind of, and I've been thinking a lot about this since like, you know, you broke your foot, the car broke down. The dream crusher, you know, that sort of stuff really kind of hit home to me because I was starting to get comfortable. I had this routine and I had this thing, you know, I was falling back into this, like on Monday I teach, you know, I work and I teach martial arts. I get home and it's time to eat dinner and go to bed. And Tuesday I do this and Wednesday, you know, and I had this like routine again. And not that that's a bad thing, but like the car breaking down kind of threw a wrench into all of that. And it made me kind of like, okay, I was getting, it made me reevaluate everything. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So I had to reevaluate and kind of reset and get my mind right, so to speak, you know, which was incredibly frustrating. You know, I'm a creature of habit. I have a routine that I do, and as long as that routine, if I get these things done, there's only a dozen things that I like to do every day. If I get all of those things done, my day goes real smooth. If something interrupts that program, oh dude, I'm like running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I have a hard time focusing. I have a hard time getting back on track. So at the time when the car broke down, when you broke your foot, you know, it screwed up my routine in so many different ways that like I had to really reassess all of that and go, hey, how important is all of this stuff? I mean, it's good to have healthy habits, you know, but like I need to be flexible enough to where if something goes a little haywire, I can't let that interrupt what I'm doing, you know. Just like take it in stride and keep going kind of thing, you know. So really, it was a lesson learned, but only after the fact. Like I had to get through it, and then I was like, oh, that's why. Okay, you know, like I get it now, you know. Instead, I was like really stressed out, not sleeping well, clenching my jaw so much that my teeth hurt, you know. Yeah. So it was really, it was a good lesson, but it was a hard one to learn.
Do you think that having that routine, I mean, do you think like a routine's a good thing in my opinion?
Yeah. I think it's good, but like I'm going to say something, and I don't want it to be offensive. My wife and I have this very sick sense of humor, and I joke that it's that I get like Rain Man. If you've seen the Tom Cruise movie, Rain Man, Jeopardy. I didn't get to see my Jeopardy, so you know, in the movie Rain Man, there's a scene where Tom Cruise is trying to get Dustin Hoffman into this complete stranger's house to watch Jeopardy. I think I've talked about this before, but forgive me if I have, but in the movie they like just knock on this random person's door and there's a bunch of kids and they're all watching cartoons and Tom Cruise is like being super slick, trying to sweet talk his way into this house to let them watch Jeopardy, let Dustin Hoffman watch Jeopardy, and he does something and it like kind of weirds the mom out who answered the door, and she's like, yeah, I don't think so, and she shuts the door. Well, Dustin Hoffman just starts freaking out, and Tom Cruise is like, I had you. You were in there. We were watching Jeopardy, and you had to go and screw this up, you know? And I kind of like, that's how my mind works. Like I wake up at 4:30 Monday through Friday without fail. I try and do a little stretching. I have all of this little routine that I do in the morning. And if I do it, my day's good. But if something screws that day up, I'm like Rain Man freaking out a little bit. Like I'm not outward, inward. I'm, my head inside in between my two ears is just like, constant state of panic. And it's just, it's a habit. And they're good habits. It's not like I wake up every morning and like drink a 6-pack of beer or smoke crack or something like that. They're all good, healthy habits that I've developed over the last couple of years, and they're really good. And so like, I want that endorphin rush, right? Like I want that good thing to happen because it makes me feel good. It makes my day go smoother. And it's so rigid that if something knocks it askew, I'm like, panic time, So having this interruption with the cart breaking down, you breaking your foot and like knocking our schedule kind of wonky a little bit. At the time I was panicking, and now I look back and go, you know what? I kind of needed that. I needed this to happen to make me reassess. And now I'm slowly learning that it's okay if life doesn't go according to plan, right? Because I don't have a choice, right? If an earthquake happens or a fire breaks out or a tornado breaks out, my routine is getting put on the back burner until those emergencies are dealt with. So this shouldn't be any different. A minor diversion shouldn't affect me the way a massive disaster would. Yeah. Like, let go. It's okay. Just go with that flow and take care of those things as they happen. So
that's so interesting because there's comfort in routines.
And there totally is. And I'm a creature of comfort. I like my comfort. I want to be comfortable. But yeah, I didn't really think about that.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, going back to what I was saying, being on a film set, you have all these plans of you're going to film at this location for this amount of time, and then you got to move your group to the next location, and things happen, and it's like you just got to adjust on the fly, even maybe it's things didn't happen, like out of left field, we had something happen that we didn't foresee. Maybe then it's like a planned change too, and just totally. And then you gotta adjust fire. We said in the Army, adjust fire.
That is so funny. Have you ever been to? Oh gosh, Ashland, Oregon. They have there's a theater company in Ashland, Oregon. They do
the Oregon Shakespeare Festival.
Yes,
yeah, it's like a festival.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's really cool. So I went there in college. One of the times I went to college, we went up to did like a field trip and go to see A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh, okay.
Right on. And they're doing like a 50s kind of theme. So it's Shakespeare, but like all the outfits, they're wearing like poodle skirts and leather jackets and stuff. And it was pretty good. It was really good. They had really good actors, very talented. But it was wintertime.
Uh-oh.
Okay? And so there's this scene in the movie where this guy's reading this love letter, and he's like comparing this girl to like the moon and the stars and all this stuff. Well, he gets to this scene and it starts raining. And the further into the scene that he's going, it's dumping rain. Like at one point, it's raining so bad that he's like swiping the water off of the paper, and like it's everywhere. It's coming down, and it's the most hilarious thing I think I've ever witnessed live, because he's like, and the moon and the stars, and it's freaking cloudy, and there's no moon, and the rain is pouring down, and it was
it outside?
It was outside.
Okay, so it was
outside.
It was unplanned.
It was this unplanned event, and it was like, he had to keep going, right? He just kept going, and you know, and it was the most hilarious thing. But like, some things happen that are unplanned for, and you know, you could freak out and like
go in your hole,
or you can adapt and work with the problem, work around the problem, you know. And it was just. It was a good lesson, you know. I'm sure, like on a movie set, if you plan for like a scene where you're like, you know, the sun's coming up and you want to get the sunrise, and if it's overcast or foggy, you got to adapt. It's like, what are we going to do? You know, I'm sure you can digitally enhance some of that stuff, but
plan for another day, or
yeah,
you go at dusk and try to get you cheat it,
yeah, but. Those things happen, and you got to be flexible, just like life. A couple of other things, not to change the subject. We're kind of on a roll there, but there are a couple of things that I wanted to talk about today. Unless you had more to go.
No, okay. You said it.
Texas is good. The movie was awesome. Your foot's all healing up. More importantly, when are you coming back to class?
Oh man! So the doctor told me that I would when I broke my leg. He said he looked at the pictures of the spiral fracture on my fibula, and he said it'll be 6 to 8 weeks of healing. Well, I think it was 8 weeks ago today that I broke my leg,
Sweet.
And so I'm nowhere near ready to come back, but I'm building the strength back up in my leg. So could be a couple weeks. Could be a month. I don't know, but I'm craving coming back.
I bet you are.
Just getting back into it. I can only sit down on the couch and do hand drills so many times. Yeah, before you're just like, okay, I got to get up and I got to move, like being static. But you know, the greatest thing about, like you said, it wasn't part of the plan to break my leg, but to get to be able, because I've been coming to class.
Yeah.
And even though I can't physically train, I've been trying to come once a week and just sit and watch. And I'm taking notes, and I'm getting to see, like, oh, okay, like, I'm kind of getting intel on intelligence on some of the people in the class. I'm like, oh, this person's moving like this now. This person, they're dropping their hands.
Here's
like,
a tell that this guy's got. I'm gonna use this to my advantage. That's sweet.
So that's it. So it's been nice. I've been harnessing this time of my life I've been harnessing it to use it for observation.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So the short answer is I don't know when I'll be back, but hopefully within a month, you know, to train in. But it'll be a slow easing in because I'm gonna have to relearn how to kick with my left leg. Like I'm gonna have to, you know, just resharpen that tool.
And once you get injured, you know, there's always something in the back of your mind that's like, ooh, I got to be careful about that.
Yeah.
Right? Like I hurt my shoulder a couple of years back doing exercises with the kids. We were doing like a crab walk, right? And I rolled, we were going sideways, and I rolled my arm behind my back, and just, I didn't go to the hospital, I didn't go to the doctor or anything, but it just was like, oh, that could have been bad, you know? And for a long time afterwards, it was just always kind of nagging and sore. And I probably should have went and saw a doctor just to make sure it didn't tear anything, you know? Right. But it was always like, anytime we were grappling, anytime I was like practicing like arm bars or stuff like that, I was always like really worried about it, you know? And it was always kind of in the back of my head, like, careful, you know? Yeah. So it took me a while to like not worry about it anymore, not be like always thinking about what am I doing with my left arm? Am I jeopardizing this? Am I going to be putting it in a bad situation, spot. You know? So I get that. You want to make sure that that's all good before you hurt it, you know?
Before I come back
Before you come back, yeah.
And the doctor said, I maybe I'd heard this in the past, and probably most people or a lot of people know this, but where the break was on your bone, it actually heals up stronger than
Yeah.
what it was.
I've heard that. Yeah.
So I guess once it's healed, then it's stronger than it was before, but it's still in the back of my head. Like, ooh, you know,
you don't want to hurt it. I'm sure it, like, I've heard people talk about like knee injuries, like where they tore their meniscus or their ACL or something, you know, and then they're like, for a long time after that fact, whatever activity they're doing, especially if it's one that got them where they are now, where they like tore their ACL or whatever, they're always kind of like, oh,
cautious.
Got to be cautious with this. Got to be careful, you know.
Yeah, and you talk about just real quick. You talk about things messing up your routine.
Yeah.
Well, breaking my leg has it's provided an opportunity for me to empty my cup. You know, empty my cup and coming back. I'm going to be coming back with a black belt mindset, especially having sat and watched.
Yeah.
But it's almost like some of my skills are going to come back as like a white belt, like a little bit. Yeah, I'm sure it won't be like I haven't trained, but it's given me an opportunity to really empty my cup. Unwillingly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes those are the best lessons.
Right.
I mean, because you can look at it in one or two ways. Like, okay, my foot's broke. I can't train. Well, what can I do? And that was like what you did. And that's one of the reasons why I call you the superhuman. Because this isn't the first time you've been injured. No. You've been injured before, and you still come in, and you're still doing stuff. You're still participating. Not 100% participating, but you're still there, and you're asking questions, and you're answering questions for people, and it's admirable. Like the first time I saw you do that, I'm like, you're insane. What are you doing? Like, you need to go heal up. This is part of healing up. You're still trying to stay relevant and current with what's going on, and getting what training you can. And that's important. And you know, a lot of people, myself included, I don't know that I would do that. I don't know, you know, now knowing that you do it, if something happened to me tomorrow, I would still find a way to get down here. and like at least a little bit to engage, to watch, and to absorb what I can. But like 5 years ago, no, I'd have stayed at home and healed up or whatever, you know. So that's a great lesson, you know. You may not be able to do everything that you want to do, but there's still something you can do, right? So yeah, that's just one of the many reasons why I call you the superhuman.
Tyler the superhuman.
Yeah. Yeah, it just that to me was inspiring to see. Like, you know what? You can do something. Like, I might not be able to do everything, but I can do something.
In any given situation.
In any given situation, you know. And I think you're going to find that you're going to surprise yourself because you've been participating and watching and learning. I don't think your skills are going to diminish as much as you think they will.
I hope not.
Personally, I hope they diminished a lot, but I think you're going to be a lot sharper than you think you are.
Okay.
Because you've been participating. Like, you know, there's always the story of the athlete that like practices all day and then like goes home and dreams about the practice or thinks about the practice and they feel like that was just as good as the actual physical practice, you know. Mm-hmm. Going through stuff in your head and practicing in your mind and watching and observing others practice, I think is a very valuable asset. And I think that's going to help you recover quicker and get back up to speed quicker, if that makes sense.
I hope so. Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah. Just observing, and a lot of the observation I do isn't so much like I'm observing and I'm thinking while I observe, but it's not so much like, oh, this is what, like, oh, this person dropped their hand. It's almost like I'm just like taking it in as it happens, and I'm skipping the whole thinking process. Yeah. And it's just coming in and being strictly like being in the moment, you know, because while you're sparring someone or fighting someone, you don't have the opportunity normally to be like, you see their hand drop and you're like, oh, they dropped their hand. I'm going to utilize that because like Bruce Lee talks about in Tao of Jeet Kune Do, that you observe something, then your brain has to process it, then you have to send that signal to your body to tell it what to do. Then there's a delay between like all these things happening.
All of those things take time.
And so then you tell your body, okay, move over here. Then your body actually has to do it. And all that stuff builds up. Well, now I'm just trying to like experience it in real time and watch like, oh, they dropped their hand. I would have hit them right then.
Yeah.
Without even thinking. Like my thinking is catching up to my responding.
Okay. That
makes
sweet.
sense.
No, that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to go talk about today. So that's awesome. So in our style that we have this concept where we talk about learning gates,
mm-hmm.
and they're like hurdles that you have to get through when you are learning something new, right? And there's 4 of them, and it's supposed to be a circular thing. And I'm not going to go like way in depth. I just want to like kind of give a broad idea of it, And the first one, what I wanted to go through is this very similar thing that Bruce Lee talks about in the book "Be Water, My Friend," which is one that I've been reading and very slowly.
I gotta get that book.
I'll let you borrow it. I'm almost done with it, and it's taken me a really long time. But he has 4 of them as well, and there's one he calls stage 1 partiality. And he goes through the idea that like when you're learning something new, at first it's just this thing. You're learning it. You don't even have a rough idea of what it is. Okay, you have the broad term, but it's not like it's very fluid. Like you don't have all of the ins and outs. You don't understand everything. And then the next one is fluidity. And you go through and you have an idea of what it is, but it's still 2 separate things. Okay? And then the third one, he calls it emptiness, which is a little different than our gates that we talk about, or that we're going to talk about. But they get those 2 halves, you and this thing you're learning, get closer together. And then the final one, he calls it Jeet Kune Do, which is the name of his style that he developed or created. And it's basically the thing that you've learned and you are one thing. There's no difference. It just happens. Like you don't have to think about it. There's no time to react. It just goes, right? And ours is, I can't remember the first one. I just totally drew a blank.
Blindness.
That's right. You're blind. So the new thing that you know, or the new thing that you're learning, isn't concrete. There's no defined parameter of it. It's just kind of out there in the ether. You're learning about it, and as you learn about it, it becomes closer and clearer and more defined. And then, so it's blindness, duality, oneness, emptiness.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so as you go through these gates and things, those things become more defined. The thing that you're trying to learn becomes more defined, more parameters, more information, right? And then eventually you become it. It becomes you. It's one. There's no. It's like breathing. It just happens. And I just thought that was a really interesting. He goes way in depth in this book, and it's really, really good. And the whole idea of learning some new skill or a new language or a new whatever the case may be, whatever learning thing that you're doing, whatever new thing that you're trying to learn, we kind of all go through these process, like where, what am I even doing? You know, that first stage is like really unsure of things, right? What am I even doing? And then you kind of have it, and you there's a real you got to be cautious there when you finally start to understand it, because you kind of get, and I have an example. If you get too cocky with it and think you know it, and you're doing it wrong, it's a huge setback. And just recently, this happened to me this week. So I do a lot of private lessons with kids and adults, and I teach on Mondays. And since COVID happened, I've been teaching a lot, and it's been awesome. And it's made me a better student, you know, because like I got both sides of the same coin, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're doing a couple of self-defense drills, and we in the beginner classes we teach a lot of the just simple wrist grabs and escapes and things like that. Well, I was doing this simple white belt technique, escape, wrong. And I had been doing it wrong for years, at least 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, at least 2 years. And the funny thing is I knew how to do it the correct way. But in my way of trying to connect with the kid and help them understand it in a way that they could do it fluidly and quickly, I missed a few steps. And so it wasn't like it was completely wrong. It just wasn't right. Okay? So if I was going to give myself a grade, it'd have been like a C-.
Ooh.
Okay? But
barely passing.
Barely passing.
C's get degrees.
Yes, that's right. That was my motto in school. So,
no, you want to go for A's.
Yeah, you want to go for A's. Now my motto is completely different, but in school that was my motto. Hey, I got a passing grade. It was funny because Sensei Quartz, he must have been teaching the same technique to a kid that I worked with, because that kid went, I'm sure this is what happened. I don't know for a fact, but I'm sure the kid went, well, Dustin teaches it this way. So we're in class this week, and Blaine's like, hey, grab my wrist real quick. And he does the escape, and then he grabs my wrist, and I do the escape. And he's like, aha. And just this simple technique of how he turned his hand puts the grabber's wrist at an angle. And it's hard to describe just over the audio. If we were doing a live video, I would show you. But anyway, putting your hand as the escapee in a certain angle curves the wrist to allow for like an arm bar or the wrist lock. And I had missed that fine detail because I had glossed over it, and I had been glossing over it for a while, and I didn't realize it. And that simple little reminder was like a floodlight going on in a dark room. It was like bang, you know, like oh crap. So I could have taken that one of two ways. All right, I could have got really pissed off.
Could have.
And been like, oh, I'm a black belt and my ego doesn't allow me to. Or I could have, which I'm glad I had the foresight, the wherewithal to do that. I was like, oh, crud. I missed that detail. I missed this little thing. And it was good. It was, it was like, oh, crap, I still need to work on some of this stuff.
Yeah. Go back and polish some of that.
Go back and polish that up. And so... the learning gates or the concepts that Bruce Lee talks about in his journals, Be Water, My Friend, that book, those aren't a one and done. Those are a continuous process. We're constantly trying to become better, right? That's the whole idea of like martial arts, of jiu-jitsu, kung fu, whatever you do, you're constantly trying to do better. And I think about like a plumber or a welder, a guy. Think about a person who gets paid by the hour, a professional. You call this professional in, and you call them for a reason. They can do the job that you want done, and for whatever reason you can't do it. You're not paying them for the time it takes. You're paying them for their skill.
That's a good way of putting it.
You're paying them for their skill. and you hope that they have enough skill that they can do the job that you want them to do.
On time.
On time, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because like I'll pay somebody to do a job for me, but I'm cheap. Like I want it done. You know, I'll try it myself first, unless it's just a physical impossibility. I don't have the tools are going to cost me more than the project, or the knowledge is going to cost me more than the project will take. Then I'll hire it out. But if it's something I can do, I'm going to do it myself, hell or high water. But sometimes I'm like with the van, right? It took me over 2 weeks to get it done. The job, if you go to a shop, it's a 6-hour job. At the cost of $1,500 for a $100 part. So I don't want to pay $1,500. I'm going to struggle and rope any friend I can get in to help me or family member and beg and plead and borrow and get them to help me do this, right? Well, did I miss the mark there? No, not necessarily. I saved myself $1,400. But
you gained a new skill.
And I gained a new skill, and I learned some new curse words, and But those processes are continuous. Like we're constantly learning new things, and that's kind of what I meant with the whole story about the wrist lock thing. Like I know that, I know how to do it, but I didn't know it as well as I thought I did. And now I remembered why we do. Why it's done a certain way. So, it sets up other things, and it's really hard to describe over just audio. So,
well, and that type of like knowing that you knew that wrist lock, and you had probably in a real world example, like in a real world situation, that wrist lock, how you were doing it would have worked.
Oh, it probably would have. The whole reason why it was done a certain way, though, is to chain together other things, and it sets up other stuff. And what I was thinking was a shallow topic was much deeper.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was a lesson learned. Even on the surface, I wasn't scratching the surface of it. When in fact this thing was,
there's a lot of
depth to it, and it had more than what appeared.
Yeah,
which was cool.
Well, and that's kind of like the so those steps that Bruce Lee talked about in Be Water, My Friend. I haven't read the book yet, but gosh, now I need to. I'm
almost done. Probably a couple of weeks or so, and I'll hook you up.
Okay. So, and then like with our gate, so he talks about learning something new with those 4 stages or whatever he identified them as. And then the 4 gates that we have. Well, now it seems like now that you have learned martial arts, right? Like Wu Ying Dao.
Yeah.
That now you're starting over, but you're starting over as a black belt. Like you're almost, and so like your process with that wrist grab is that you knew it on a macro level.
Yeah.
All that stuff, but now you're relearning it
on a micro
level, and it's refining it. You're refining at a different stage or level, like a higher up stage or level.
Yeah. It's like looking at a great work of art, and you see a picture of it, or you see it in front of you, and you see it one time, and it's like, oh, that's beautiful. And then you see it again, and it's like, I know what it looks like, but then you start to see little details that you missed the first time. Mm-hmm. Like Starry Night. That's the first painting I just thought of just right now. Starry Night by Van Gogh. It's crazy. It's a picture of the sky and the stars and the Milky Way and all of this stuff. And it's his distinct style of painting but there's depth to it. I read this article about it a number of years ago. The stars are in the correct placement for the time of year that he painted that.
Wow.
Like there's constellations, to look at it in just like as a casual observer, it's a beautiful painting, but it's like they look random,
Mm-hmm.
right? They look like, oh, he just painted stars, but there's more to it than just a casual glance at it, if that makes any sense.
I'm gonna have to see this painting.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've ever seen this.
You've seen Starry Night. I guarantee you've seen Starry Night.
Maybe I didn't know, or I was a kid, but I'm gonna have to look at this now.
Check that out.
Well, that sounds like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
For sure.
Of it.
And I'm probably butchering that. It might not be right, but from the article that I remember reading 20 years ago. That might be the case, but we're 45 minutes into this, so I want to start wrapping this up. A couple of quick things. Next month, starting January 1st, Echelon Front, which is if you're familiar with Jocko, he does a contest with his company. It's called the Discipline Equals Freedom Reset, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7 steps.
Eight steps that it's a checklist basically. And if you're into social media, find Echelon Front on Instagram. There's a post on there. You can register with them. They have a contest going on, and it's basically a couple of things that you're supposed to check off every day. No days off. 30 days. Wake up early. Exercise. Write a to-do list, drink water, eat healthy, avoid junk food, spend time on personal development, reading, meditating, whatever, and make your day count and honor for those that paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I did it last year. It was a lot of fun. I met a whole bunch of new friends. I really, really wanted to win last year, and I didn't win. But this year, I want to win so much more. Because the prizes are better, and I don't want all the prizes. There's one specific prize I want more than all of the others, and I'm willing to do a lot for that. So
get out of his way, everyone.
Get out of the way. Anyway, I made a copy of everything for you, Tyler.
Okay,
and I'll share that with you. And friends, you're more than welcome to join and check it out. This isn't a paid promotion. This is totally free advertising for them, but it's a really cool thing. I did it last year. It created a lot of great healthy habits for me and made me think about the things that I do in my life every day. So it wasn't like a, go tell it on the mountain thing, or, I didn't change it, I didn't have any kind of grand vision or epitaph or anything like that, but it definitely created healthy habits for me. And I just thought it would be a cool thing to share, and I really want to win. So I'm gonna try hard to win this one. And so
that sounds good.
Yeah.
So it's the discipline equals freedom.
Discipline equals freedom reset. And it's pretty simple. You have to send them an email address. You don't even have to print the forms. I did just because I like to have a visual. And you follow this checklist. They want you to post every day. And you tag them with the hashtag DEF reset. And I've been using it since last year, and I haven't stopped. I've kept it going. So it's awesome. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, I met a bunch of people. Actually, Mary, a good friend of ours that follows the podcast, I met her on this, and she's an awesome lady, and she was messaging me about your foot when you broke your leg, and
well, thank you, Mary.
Yeah, she's an awesome lady. So anyway, friends, I hope you like this. I hope this finds you well. If you got comments, questions, concerns, shoot us an email at theformlesspod@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at formless_the. We have a Facebook group called the Formless Podcast. That's an open group. You're welcome to join us and see what we got going on there. And then we have the Instagram account, the Formless Podcast. We have some things that we've got in the works here that we're hoping to have out soon. Not as soon as I'd like, but we're working on that. We want some stickers and t-shirts and things like that designed so we can fund a website.
Yeah.
So that's coming. We just it's not quite there yet, but we'll get there. Anything else you want to add?
That's it.
Perfect. Well, friends, enjoy your day.